Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. This isn't so much a January wrap-up as it is a January update because I haven't finished any books in January. I have started several and I've made some good progress in a couple of them, but I've just not been in a reading mood throughout the month. I've been slumping pretty hard and I've been much more in the mood for knitting and video games. I've also started streaming again, so I've been having a lot of fun doing that, but it just means I haven't finished anything to talk about. So I figured instead of a wrap-up, it might be fun to do a little bit of an update, talk about the books I did start in January and what I'm going to be carrying over into February. And then maybe we can also talk a little bit about the knitting projects I've been working on and the games I've been playing. I thought that might be fun instead of a typical wrap-up. But we'll start with the reading that I wanted to talk about because I did start like 3 different books. The first one I picked up was one of my January TBR books. Actually, I started 3 of them, so that was a success. All 3 of the books I picked up were books that were on my original list. But the first one I started with was Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jessie Q. Sutanto. And unfortunately, I am going to be DNFing this one. I made it 100 pages in, and while the writing is fine and I like the side characters, I really cannot get along with the main character in this. I think she's intentionally frustrating, but she's frustrating in ways that are making it wildly unpleasant for me to read her POV chapters. Like, I think it bothers me specifically. I also feel like some of the characters are behaving in ways where it suggests that they're acting on information that the author has about what's going to come in the story, rather than information that the characters have at that very moment. So that is kind of weird feeling. And then I also feel like it's not doing a good job of balancing the cozy and the mystery aspect. So it's just not working for me, and I totally get why other people love this. I can see why other people get a lot of this book and out of this series, why it ended up being a series, but it's just not working for me as a reader, so I think I'm probably going to go ahead and unhaul this one as well, so I can get it in the hands of somebody who will enjoy it. After that, I started Greedy by Callie Kazemi, which is an arc for a book that actually comes out today. It's currently February 3rd, and I am planning an arc vlog for February, so there will be a vlog of this and another one, because I have another vlog that comes out at the end of the month. But I did start this one, and I am having a good time so far. This is about a guy named Ed, who is a British expat living in Tokyo, and he is, like, married, he has a kid, but he's also in significant gambling debt with the Yakuza, and he has to, like, find a way out of the situation, and in doing so, takes up a really sketchy-sounding job as a private chef for a reclusive socialite, and things kind of spiral out of his control from there. I'm about 30% in. I am enjoying this one so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the story is going to play out, because I have a sense of, like, it's got to be a cannibalism book, right? The description sounds like it's a cannibalism book, but I have no idea, like, where it's going to go exactly or how it's going to get there, and I am enjoying Ed as a main character, so I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen in the story, because I really don't have any sense of what to expect. And then the final book that I started was An Alchemy of Masks and Mirrors by Curtis Craddock. This is the first book in the Risen Kingdoms trilogy, and I'm having a great time with this one. I love the characters in this. We're following Jean-Claude and Isabelle. Jean-Claude is a King's Own musketeer in this place called the Celestial Empire that's one of several empires on a series of, like, sky islands or sky continents. Everything is, like, floating in the sky. There are airships, and below everything is an endless storm, unending storm. I don't know what I was trying to say there. An endless storm called the Gloom. So this is sort of like historical fantasy with a steampunk twist. There's a lot of, like, technology and science involved, and Isabelle, our other main character, is a noble's daughter who lacks the sorcery that she should have based on her bloodline, and she also has a deformed arm, so she is kind of in multiple different ways disadvantaged by the society that she lives in, but she's also incredibly intelligent and fascinated by science and math, so she really wants to be an empirical philosopher, but is kind of limited in what she is able to do as a woman in her society. So the two of them end up going on various adventures across the trilogy. This particular one, Isabelle is engaged to a noble from a rival kingdom, and everyone who's been engaged to him previously has been assassinated, and they need to figure out why so that Isabelle can avoid being the next victim. I'm just having such a good time with this. There's a really fun, like, father-daughter dynamic between Jean-Claude and Isabelle. The way they care for each other is so sweet. The science elements are really cool. The magic system in here is really cool. And I feel like I'm still learning so much about the world. There's a fun, like, religious aspect of the story. They have a religion based on a group called the Risen Saints, who were kind of the initial sorcerers. I'm just having a great time. There's so much to enjoy about this. I think it's fun. There's great banter. There's a very kind of fast-moving plot, and it's just really grabbed my attention, and it's the first book this month to do so, the first book this year to do so. So I'm excited to continue on with this. So because I haven't been reading a lot, I have been doing a lot more knitting and a lot more video game playing, but I figured we could talk quickly about the knitting projects I'm currently working on. So one of the two, I'm almost done with the first half of this, but this is a pair of gloves for Jacob. He had said something about he's never had like a nice pair of knitted gloves and he wanted a pair, so we picked out a pattern that he liked and picked out some yarn that he liked, and I have gotten started on these. This is the Frontenac pattern. I can't remember the name of the designer off the top of my head. I could look at it though. Sweet Paprika Designs is the name on the pattern document. It's just a really pretty little cabled pattern. It's got a very simple wave cable pattern that I've been really enjoying knitting. I think this one's really fun, and it's like just the right amount of complexity for something that I can like sit and work on while I'm like watching something or listening to an audiobook or something like that. It's just like the perfect level of complexity for me for like a typical project, and I'm really enjoying working on it. This is my first pair of gloves I've made. I've made some like fingerless gloves, but I have not made ones with fingers. So I've just made it to the index finger, which is the first finger that you knit, and then I've got a few fingers left to knit, and then I'm done with the first glove, and I can move on to the second one. So that's that. And then the second project I'm working on, I bought some yarn when we were visiting his parents, because I specifically wanted to get some sock yarn as like a souvenir while we were there, and I'm now working on a pair of spiral socks, which this is a pattern from, I think it's Arne Carlos, and this is like a traditional, I think, Norwegian style of sock, but it's a spiral sock, meaning that it's just a spiral, 4x4 knit and purl spiral, and you slowly shift the pattern backwards every few rows, but it doesn't have a heel because the spiral allows it to like conform to your foot. So I thought that sounded super cool. I wanted to try it, and I just found this beautiful chartreuse yarn. I love chartreuse. It's one of my favorite colors. So I was excited to find this like perfect chartreuse yarn, and I feel like this is turning out really cool. So I'm very excited with how that is going as well. Forgive the little angle change. I had to get the battery handle out, which makes the camera ever so slightly taller. But now we can talk about the video games that I've been playing recently. So for one thing, I've been streaming Subnautica over the last couple of weeks, and I'm enjoying that way more than I expected to. It's a survival game where you've crash landed on an alien ocean planet and you're trying to survive long enough to escape. It also has lots of mysteries to unravel, but the thing that I picked it up for was the Leviathans. I had heard that there were big scary monsters in the deep, and I love deep ocean horror, so I wanted to find some Leviathans. And as of yesterday, I've successfully been moited by a Reaper Leviathan. I finally found one. I was so excited about it. It is exactly what I wanted. And I'm having a great time. I'm really enjoying the survival aspect too, which it surprises me because I don't normally enjoy that part of games. But I really like how much variety there is in the game. There's lots of stuff to explore. There's like other life pods that you're receiving distress signals from, so you're trying to like find them. And you're slowly finding out like what happened to each of the other life pods from your ship. And you're also finding parts to make new items to help you survive. So I'm really enjoying like the exploration. The environments are beautiful. The music is really good. All kinds of weird creatures to discover, which I'm enjoying. And especially the Leviathans. They're really cool. There's some reef-back Leviathans, which are big whales with reefs on their backs. And they're just really cool looking. And it's really creepy when you're underwater and you can like hear them in the distance. So I've been really enjoying that aspect of it. And I was just so excited yesterday to finally find a Reaper Leviathan. So having a great time with that, enjoying it way more than I thought I would, and planning to continue with that for the foreseeable future. I also recently finished The Evil Within, which I had been playing with my friend Six. That was also for stream, and I'm excited that I finally finished it because I've been saying that's one of my favorite horror games for years, but I had never played through the ending myself. I had watched playthroughs of it back before I had access to any devices capable of playing something like that. I'd loved the game for years, but never had played through the ending myself, and I now have, and it was just such a fun experience to finally finish the game for myself, but also to get to play it through with my friend Six, who had not seen the game before, or had, I think maybe had, but hadn't in a while. So, yeah, it was just a really fun time. It was a good experience, and I highly recommend The Evil Within if you like something like Resident Evil. It's the same director as the original Resident Evil games. It's Shinji Mikami, and I just really enjoy it. I think it's a really fun series. Unfortunately, it never got as popular as, like, Resident Evil or something like that. So, there's 2 games. There's kind of a cliffhanger ending on 2, so it feels a little like there could be a 3rd game, but I don't think we're likely to get one. If we ever got one, though, I would absolutely play it, because I really love both The Evil Within and The Evil Within 2, which I had actually finished The Evil Within 2 before I finished Evil Within 1. And I'm going to be replaying it soon with 6 as well, so that's going to be a good time. I also finished Last Report. This is a super short park ranger horror kind of pixel art style game that I played recently, and I actually played it through twice in the same stream, so it is very short, but it's really, really good. It's about a park ranger who is going in for the night shift on a night when everything suddenly goes chaotically wrong, and it's really fun. It's got some really great atmosphere. It's really creepy. It scared me way more than I thought it was going to, especially given that it's like a pixel art style game, and it has a really fun mechanic where you're like examining reports and trying to make sure that reports line up with the actual information, like make sure the reports are correct, basically, but things start to go weird with the reports partway through, and the reports are how you're, like, finding new information, along with, like, talking to some of the other park rangers. So I really was enjoying it. It was really well done. I think it could have been, like, a half hour to an hour longer and would have been even better, because I feel like the ending feels a little flat, but I just had such a good time with this one. It was a really good, like, solid short horror experience. I also started another replay recently, after I finished Evil Within, replaying Chapter 1, which is one of the Frogware Sherlock Holmes games. I'm obsessed with the Frogware Sherlock Holmes games. Frogware is one of my favorite developers. I also really like The Sinking City. But I played Chapter 1 back when it originally came out, and I just randomly got an urge to replay it. So I restarted that on Saturday and was playing it. My friend Moth hopped in, and we played for a bit. And it was just such a good time, too. I forgot how much I love that game. It's like sort of open world Sherlock Holmes. You have some specific quests that you're doing that are like the main cases for the game, but there's all this other like side stuff you can do too, and I just really enjoy it. It's like a young Sherlock Holmes on a Mediterranean island trying to find out the mystery of what happened to his mother, and I had so much fun with it. I really like this iteration of Holmes because he is this kind of young, arrogant asshole, basically, but I think he grows in interesting ways across Chapter 1. So I really am excited to be diving back into that one and playing it through, and I'm probably going to also play the sequel when I'm done with Chapter 1. In my own time, I've also played a couple of other things. So I played Quarantine Zone: The Last Check recently, and loved that. The concept is sort of Papers, Please, but with zombies. So you're the commander of a checkpoint, like in a zombie overridden city, and you're basically examining people as they enter the checkpoint to try and ensure that you're not letting infected people who are going to turn into zombies and like kill everybody through into your survivor block, while also trying to get enough people gathered up so that you can evacuate them out of the city. And I really enjoyed this. I think it asks some interesting moral questions early on. I think that kind of falls apart later in the game. It really leans into sort of a silliness aspect with some of the later quests, but I did think it was a really fun game mechanically. It basically, you're like examining people with various different tools. You gain more tools across the course of the story, and all of the different symptoms you're looking for, you're also trying to figure out new symptoms that you haven't seen before and get information on them. You're like quarantining people to see if they're going to turn into zombies or not, or if they're just like sick and can go on through. There's a lot of management stuff to it. You're also trying to ensure that your camp has enough food and medicine and power to get through the day, and I feel like it was complicated but not overly complex, so it was a lot to remember to do, but it didn't ever feel overwhelming, and I really enjoyed my first playthrough of it. It's another one where I feel like the ending is kind of flat because it just kind of ends suddenly. You finish up your 27 days that the game takes place in, and then the game's like, okay, cool, you're done. But I really enjoyed just the mechanics of doing that. I really love a game that gives me a tedious task to complete, and this certainly fit that bill. It gave me a very tedious task to do, and I was fully invested, and it completely ate up my time and my attention for like 4 days, and then I finished it, finally, and I was free. And then finally, the last game I wanted to mention, Bloodlines 2. I started Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. I can't believe I forgot the title. I think if you go into it looking for a sequel to Bloodlines, you're going to be disappointed. It is not a sequel to Bloodlines. I have played, but not finished. A theme with me. I have played but not finished the original Bloodlines, and even with what I have played of it, I can tell you that Bloodlines 2 is not a sequel to Bloodlines. But if you go in without that expectation, and you are just looking for like a good vampire drama, and like a good murder mystery, it is that. It is so much that. It is so fun. It really sells the idea that you're an ancient vampire because you're playing a character called the Nomad, who is an ancient vampire who wakes up in Seattle 100 years out of date and is trying to get to grips with the modern world, but they also have a voice in their head that's a 1920s detective, and they're working together to figure out what the hell's going on. But it really sells the idea that you are a super powerful ancient vampire. It feels like that's the character you're playing. I really like that Fire feels like a real person and not like a blank slate for you to play. I love a game that gives me like an established character. So I really like Fire. I like the voice in Fire's head, Fabian. I really am enjoying that dynamic. There's all of these other characters who all have their own motivations, and you have to like figure out how to navigate conversations with them by figuring out like who is this person and what do they want. And I really like that. I think it feels really satisfying when you manage to like navigate a conversation without making anybody angry. It feels just really satisfying. It feels really good. The powers feel pretty cool. I think the combat is a little bit janky, and I ended up putting it down on easy because I felt like I was just dying over and over and over, even on normal, and not necessarily because I don't know how to play games, although that probably also true. But it felt like some of the enemies were a little bit overpowered, given that a lot of the enemies are like thin blood anarchs, and the character you're playing is a super powerful ancient vampire. I think it should feel like you were just absolutely demolishing them. So I did have to make that little adjustment to my gameplay, but I love the parts where you're like trying to navigate tense political conversations with other characters, and I think the storyline is really fun. I'm really enjoying seeing how that mystery is playing out as the characters are trying to figure out like what the hell is going on in Seattle. So I'm enjoying that a lot, and I really, really recommend Bloodlines 2, but I recommend going into it not expecting it to be a direct sequel to Bloodlines, because it is just not that. So that is pretty much what I have for you today. That's how I've been spending my time in January. I am going to be continuing to stream. Just having so much fun with that. I just played some more Subnautica yesterday, and I'm starting Hellmart on Wednesday. Today's Tuesday, so that's tomorrow. I don't know what day it is. Yeah, just having a great time. I am excited to do more reading in February because I have put together a stack of books that I think is very exciting, and I'm feeling like I am shifting back into a reading mood, so I'm hopeful that I'll have some finished stuff to talk about in February, or at the end of February and the start of March. And let me know down in the comments below if you liked this format, if you'd like if I include some like crafting and gaming updates as well. I just thought this would be fun to talk about since I didn't have anything completed in terms of reading to talk about. So yeah, let me know. I really hope you've enjoyed this video though, and if you have, I hope you consider giving it a like, maybe even subscribing to see what comes next. I'm currently posting at least once a week, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.